Next on our public agenda, we have Miss LaQuisha Stringer, who's representing the Columbus Black History Museum and Archives, and would like to request a memorial marker to be placed downtown. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. On June 1st, 1896, Jesse Slayton and Will Miles were lynched on Broadway and 11th Street in Columbus, Georgia. For this reason, we ask for a resolution for an apology and to fund a marker for restitution from the city for allowing these acts to occur to these men while in police custody. As the Honorable Mayor Teresa Tomlinson wrote, though we all wish to forget such evils of man, we know we must not. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warner, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Stringer. I had the opportunity, Mr. Warner had addressed a letter to me dated May 14th, and I responded on May 17th and have provided that to council, and I'd like to read it into the record if we could. We also have additional copies I'll ask Lacey to put out so you all can have those materials. But it reads on the Columbus letterhead, Dear Mr. Warner, thank you for your letter of May 14th, 2013 regarding the heinous 1896 lynchings of Mr. Jesse Slayton and Mr. Will Miles. It sickens the soul to recount the evils of lynching mobs and justice subverted through illegal murderous conduct. The fact that acts such as this ever took place in this country is a tragic history indeed. Though we all wish to forget such evils of men, we know we must not. I commend your efforts to preserve history, even this chilling history, so that we may never forget the battles waged on the road to the civil security we enjoy today. While the city has no historic marker program, we can refer you to the Georgia Historical Society and the Historic Chattahoochee Commission, which both place markers for historic recognition. All the best to you in your pursuit of history education. Also then a couple of days later, we were able to find some information on the internet and provide that to you. I believe the city at one time did have historic marker information, program, but no longer does and hasn't had for some period of time. These are the only two that we know of, and so wanted to get you that information. As far as any formal apology for the acts of the city, as you stated, first of all, of course, this happened over 100 years ago, as you recognized. I read very thoroughly Mr. Warner's information. I appreciate you providing it. Some of the things that struck me were that in the face of this truly heinous activity, the only references to officials, although we all, I think, look back in this time of true darkness in our history, the only reference to public officials were them putting up resistance. The sheriff's deputies resisting, the governor sending troops to protect the jail, and then when those troops were pulled is when the second murderous mob attacked. The jailer trying to negotiate for the sanctity of the prisoners in his custody, and some family that had somehow gotten in the middle of the crosshairs. I'm not sure, it didn't elaborate on how this family got down there at the jail, but they were there, and he trying to negotiate for some sort of peace, I guess. There are no words that can ever undo those things. But a historic marker may well be appropriate under the terms of those guidelines that we provided, that those organizations put out. You may find also some assistance and help of Uptown that does celebrate the history, good history and bad history. We need to remember it all, because it defines who we are today and how far we've come, frankly. So those would be the suggestions that I've provided. If any counselor has any further thoughts, I invite you to add to the conversation. But I hope that's been helpful.
Madam Mayor, if you could look at the photo, do you see the police officer there that's standing along with the mob?
I saw that you had, I first of all, trust me when I say I'm not going to defend in any way anybody there. I know that you circled that there was a police officer. I didn't see that he was otherwise indicated than the circle and said this is a police officer. And I do know that Mr. Slayton was killed, according to the materials, a day or so before, and Mr. Miles that evening before, and then this is in the daytime. So I just
This is all in the same day.
don't
actually.
know what. Well, the article said that there was a trial going on, and then there was an evening. The governor sent in troops to protect the other jail, and then there was an evening event. And so I don't know the time lapse. If you're saying it differently, it wasn't put forth in that magazine article you provided. Very, it wasn't put forth very clearly in that.
Oh, we can
But
apply.
there's just no indication.
We'll get you all copies of that
As to,
as well.
And council's been provided that article that you provided us so that they
Okay.
could read it too.
It's the
That
same
there
thing.
was official activity in this heinous crime. The fact that no one was brought to justice for it is astounding. And part of that dark and evil history that I spoke of in my letter that occurred in way too many communities. So, again, that's what I have read into the record and provided you all with.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the official statement of the mayor, but certainly if council would like to add to that, they can. Yeah. Council,
A
what's
lot of
it?
silence.
Have you
Beautiful
contacted
silence.
the individuals that the mayor sent to the letter? When the mayor
We were
sent the
asking,
letter,
actually, council and Madam Mayor to find the marker since these men were in police custody and they were taken and lynched and murdered while in police custody.
you didn't hear my question. I
I
know you're
didn't.
frustrated, and I know you want this right now, but I'm trying to
It's more
help
than
you.
that.
So kind of work with me, not against me, okay? What I'm
Yes,
trying
we
to
have
say to
contacted
you
them.
is,
Yes, we
you
have.
contacted
Yes,
them?
we have.
Yes, ma'am.
What was their response back to you?
The funding is, they gave us a price.
Uh-huh. Did they say that?
It's $2,500.
Okay, did they say anything